When I was young, but old enough to know better, I hated to stop playing when I had to go to the bathroom, so I'd just pee my pants. Cold days were the worst. I vividly remember that feeling of having to pee so bad, but not wanting to go inside. There were a few glorious moments when I enjoyed the relief and the newly acquired warmth. But the relief was short-lived. Soon, the warm turned to cold, and then came the chafing of my skin against the cold, wet denim, followed by that distinctive smell. I continued doing that until the 3rd grade, my only year in public school. The shame of peeing my pants on a field trip motivated me to start using the bathroom. Sin is the moral equivalent of peeing our pants. It begins as a short-sighted solution to a genuine problem, or else as a short-lived pleasure at the expense of long-term happiness. I basically see God's rules like Him telling us to go use the bathroom. The big lie. Why do we choose to sin? Because at the time, we believe that we'll be happier doing what's wrong. That, of course, is a lie. And it's not just any lie. It's a repackaging of the very first recorded lie. The same lie is repeated throughout the ages, telling us that sin is more fun than righteousness. In Genesis chapter 3, 1-5, we read, "Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, 'Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?' The woman said to the serpent, 'We may eat from fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.' 'You will not certainly die,' said the serpent to the woman, 'for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you'll be like God, knowing good and evil.'" Do you see what Satan is doing? Do you see his tactic? He's questioning God's goodness. "Here's this great gift," says Satan, "but God doesn't want you to have it. He's holding out on you." This lie works so well that he continues to use it again and again. Too often, Satan's lie seems plausible. If you were asked 100 random people, who do you think is more fun, the devil or God? Who'd get more votes? And if no one was watching, how would you vote? I once heard about the dean of a Christian college who routinely denied reasonable requests simply because he thought being told no was good for the students. Is that how you picture God? I think he must be troubled that so many people see him that way, especially since Jesus was so clear about what the Father is like. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask? Matthew 7-9. This picture of God profoundly impacts me because I know how much I delight in giving good gifts to Grace and Sarah. It also helps me understand why God says no so often. How would I respond if my daughters asked to play with my sharpest kitchen knife? How should God respond when we ask for a snake instead of a fish? I'm convinced that we ask him for a lot of snakes, stones, thorns, and rabid squirrels because we're too foolish to know how harmful they are. Do his refusals mean he's a killjoy, or that he's a loving and protective father? My daughters don't always understand or like what I do as their father. When Grace was 8 months old, she got a deep gash on her lip. The doctor said that she needed stitches in order to avoid a scar. If she were a boy, a scar might have been fine, but not for my little princess. Do you know how they give stitches to a baby who is incapable of understanding the purpose behind the pain? By holding her down against her will and forcing her to lie perfectly still. Now, there were enough nurses to hold her, but I insisted on helping. I would not let her go through that alone. I still get choked up when I remember pinning her arms down and trying to speak calming words as I struggled to hold back the tears. If I can love my daughter in ways that are incomprehensible to her, how much more can I believe that God is indeed good and compassionate in all that he does as my Father?